I definitely see safety in the community as, it's a principle that like I care a lot about. I was super cautious about starting to perform here in Juneau because, it's a small Alaska town. I didn't know how the community would accept drag. Even in a place where maybe the show is embraced, that doesn't necessarily mean that when you go out in the daytime as a, to some degree, less than typically masculine man, that you're going to be embraced in the same way. There were plenty of allies in the community. So I think that was a bigger indicator that, like, yeah, this would be okay. I just kind of figured that the community was ready and that it could be a place that supported all the different parts of me.
I'ma say it with my chest now. I got you figured out. Take me there like nobody else. It's so unfair. I get you all to myself. But I like it like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like it like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Welcome to my drag closet. This is where all my costumes are. And you wouldn't know it, but this is totally organized, like category of costume down the line. I can show you this pair of shoes, which is, these are the first shoes that I ever rhinestoned.
Now, Grandpa, my parents, my teacher, my priest, my neighbor and best friend are all deceased.
Please don't call me Gigi. It's Gigi.
When death comes home and I hear him knock, I will welcome him.
Gigi is totally a part of me. It's not necessarily just a character on stage or just when I'm in drag. Probably that's the case because for so long when I was doing drag full time, nobody really knew James at all. Everyone only knew me and saw me as Gigi. There was a drag scene in Juneau when I got here. Gingivitis and Vanessa Lavoce Kelly, they were really kind of the center of the scene here and trying to build a queer space. And, it was very small, but it was something. The drag community in Juneau now is huge and amazing. We call it the Juneau Drag Family, and it's just exploded.
What's your blue steel? Can you do your blue steel?
I can't even keep a straight face right now. It's hard. I'm Jose Cuervo, and I'm a drag king. I try to remind myself to be brave. I'm really awkward. I'm an introvert, honestly. I do IT, and I don't talk to people. I'm losing my voice now by talking. I don't know, it's a more confident side of me. It's the side of me that's like outspoken, like ready to, go blow for blow kind of thing. So, yeah.
That's my favorite part. I was looking like Uncle Fester for a good minute, and then there's a tipping point where where I feel like super beautiful. That's honestly why I do this, is I like feeling pretty. My name is Ricky Tagaban. I'm also known as Latuya Hart Monroe. I'm a Tlingit two-spirit weaver from Juneau, Alaska. I think with my drag persona, it's hard sometimes for me to focus on like one narrative, because sometimes I want to talk about really hard, delicate things.
When Latuya started, and I ask everybody, what's your motivation? Why do you want to do drag? She said, I want to indigenize drag and I want to queer my native culture, right? So it's kind of this duality that she was really interested in playing with. And I think that theme has followed her over the last 5 or so years that she's been performing.
Indigenizing the drag space here is at its basic level is just me participating and being, a contributing member. The term two-spirit helps with like how other people see me. So like my teacher saw me as a two-spirit person and she wasn't wrong. And other people will see me as a gay man and they're not necessarily wrong. I think in the context of our drag shows, I've always felt incredibly welcomed as a two-spirit performer. And like recently I was working the spotlight at a show, and we were at a bar where I was in the balcony operating the spotlight, and a huge Native family came up to sit in the balcony next to me, and one of the people in the family said, "Are we allowed to be up here?" And she said, "Well, Ricky's here, so it'll be fine." And it felt so cool to have this woman come with her whole family, and they're all Tlingit. I've known them for a long time. And then for her to be like, "We're good. We have Ricky here." Just blending all those parts of myself and making it sparkle and be accessible to everyone.
Follow me in the night so you can keep me warm.
In a small town, you know who the performers are. You do have a little bit of background. And so when you come into the show and you see Latuya, you know who she is. You know that she's this two-spirit powerhouse in the community. And the fact that she's using drag as another art form to express all of those identities, even if she's got a sequin gown on and doing a Diana Ross song, the message is still there.
And won't you keep me into the night or where the sun shines?
And the other thing I think that's really powerful is just that we're here doing drag on Tlingit land, and to have that connection about taking up space and reclaiming space, and how queer people take up space, and what is a safe space for any group of people. I think all of those questions kind of converge on the drag stage and in that room for those couple hours.
I was like really not into it until the curtain opened. And then I was like, oh yeah, I love this.
When she chooses to step out and be very forward about her Indigenous identities and culture, I think it's like this laser focus thing, and she just is like here in a way that we just don't really get to see in any other way. Obviously in Juneau, there's lots and lots of Alaska Native culture and art and performance and expression and history and education and all of it, and it's wonderful. But I think what Latuya is doing is so unique because it's incorporating all of the sides of herself always, like 100% of the time. She's not compartmentalizing. She doesn't have to do that. She can be her full self in this space. And that's the most powerful thing.
I wanted to put land back because there's a line she says, she calls someone a real estate. She says, I'm gonna get me some land. And I wanted to flip that. When I feel like a collective gasp during a drag performance, that's kind of my favorite feeling ever. So I did a piece about Standing Rock a few years ago, like while the protests were happening. And that was one piece where I thought about it for months and was like, am I gonna get shot if I do this? Because I wanted to write Standing Rock on an upside down American flag and then use that in my performance. And I landed on, if that's how I go out, whatever. So I did the first few minutes of the Disney song Paint with All the Colors of the Wind from Pocahontas. And I had the flag inside of a garment that was kind of like Hollywood indigenous looking. And then it switched to Tanya Tuguk with Tribe Called Red. And I pulled it off and had the American flag showing, and it said Standing Rock across the flag. What surprised me about it was, and this shouldn't have surprised me, but the whole audience knew every word to Paint with All the Colors of the Wind. And I was like, okay, so we're getting our history from this like whitewashed Disney version of pedophilia at best, and you know, anyhow, everyone knew every word. And then I flipped it to talk about something that was current and happening, and the response was amazing.
It's not about like how you put your makeup on or how you pick out a costume, because I think that's really individual. Like those are individual choices. But it's kind of like, what do you do with it? You know, once you're in drag, like why are you doing it? What is the whole point? And what are you trying to convey? And I think that's a piece that like a drag mother can really help somebody like become aware of, so that when they're going out to perform, they're not just doing, you know, step 1, 2, 3, 4. It's much more embodied and it's much more aware, emotionally, physically, like relating to the space and the audience. And that's what I work with Latuya on all the time.
I forgot to wish you all happy show. Happy show.
Gigi Monroe is my drag mom. I was never gonna start without having a mentor, so meeting Gigi Monroe started that journey for me.
Keep that applause going. This is one of our kings, and it is his first in-person show. But
I don't really know how many kids I have at this point.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
But this person was incredibly talented at video editing and really brought our digital.
A drag mother is so many different things to different people, and some people don't have drag mothers, and I didn't have a drag mother when I first started. I was like self-start, like immaculate conception kind of thing. I just appeared. Coming from Atlanta and coming from a really pretty stratified and organized community, there were families, there were houses. I eventually found my drag mother, Maya Monroe, after I'd already started, and we met because I had just chosen the name Monroe. The things that I learned from her were from watching her on stage, or getting ready next to her in a dressing room, or watching how she interacted with the bar owner, the bartenders, the patrons, the audiences, the DJ, and just kind of how she maneuvered like throughout this scene and the community.
Get those dollar bills out, get that business fired up for Miss Guys and Dear Evan Hanson.
When I started, I didn't know if having the Monroe name would be something I needed to kind of earn. Like I felt like I needed to wait until it felt appropriate to call myself a Monroe. And then when I asked Gigi if I could call myself Monroe, she kind of screamed. She's like, all of you would be Monroes if we were anywhere else. Because she's, you know, she's a mentor for all of
It really
us.
takes the load off my, like, I feel like I don't have to think about that anymore.
I think the transition from drag baby to drag mother to like 30 people, it really did evolve like naturally, organically. I had learned so much in my previous performing career about how to run shows and how to work with people, other performers, and mentor, that it was really easy. Like I could just flip those lessons right around and be like, well, this is what I was taught and I've seen it work, so let me just keep passing that. You know, I wanted a place for my own performance, my own art, my own creativity to be out in the world. And that's kind of where it started from. And then it's grown and snowballed into all of this other stuff. And I think that my goal now has really shifted. It's had to focus on providing, you know, support and a sense of community for performers to just be able to express themselves and learn how to do this craft in a really high quality way, first and foremost. And then I think the secondary motivation is around creating a culture here and like creating a scene here where drag is understood. It's seen for what it is, which is a queer art form that anybody can take part in. There are lots of different styles, there's lots of different varieties, and hopefully something for everybody. And it just feels like it's a necessary piece of like the arts and culture scene in a community.
The show is about to start.
Liar.
Places. The show is
Yeah,
about
this
to
is
start.
really, I think it's my favorite one you have.
Do you remember the first time that you saw a drag king, or the first one that you connected with, where you could see yourself doing what they were doing?
Oh man, that's a good one. It had to be here when I moved here.
I never know where to look on this thing.
I know, everything's
I
blurry
think
to me
it's, I think
anyway.
it's a little green dot, isn't it?
Why do we have so many drag kings in Juneau? I have no idea. When we started, I think we had 2 or 3 who were part of an initial core, and that just inspired other people to want to be part of it. You know, they needed to see somebody like them represented on stage, and once people did, you know, they were like, okay, there's probably space for me. I think traditionally there's not a lot of space for drag kings in drag queen shows, and it's because people don't even consider that that could be. It's such a strange dynamic, and always one that bothered me.
I grew up like the other half in Florida, like all over Florida, honestly. I've been to a few drag shows, and I can't remember, but I know like the scene was predominantly drag queens, and like I don't know, I always thought it was interesting, and I never had like or knew of or done the research of like many like drag kings in the area. Seeing Taquan on stage, like that was one of my first shows, and I was like, holy, that's awesome. And then like the rest of the cast, like Dear Evan Handsome and Stevie and Will Do Ya. Like I'm like, oh, those guys are like dope. I want to do that.
I'ma show him how to act. Okay, now picture little Bobby just a young run around with his man's hammer in his hand, feeling like
I met Jose pretty soon after he moved to town.
everybody know.
It's like the sweetest, very short human being. You know, when I talked to him about like why he was interested in drag and what made him want to do it, he did give the impression that it was about, you know, more than just kind of going out there and having fun.
Flipping the bricks, you know we on. Sipping them Dom Perignon.
I spoke to Gigi like for the first time. I was like starstruck and everything. I'm like my heart dropped to my like gut, and it was just so awkward. But like, yeah, she was like, yeah, whenever you're ready, you know, just let me know.
Yeah, I got the antidote.
I feel that drag is a great platform to just remind people about the injustices for Black people for hundreds of years. And I just want to remind people of that, like, I'm deeper than my skin color.
Yeah, I got the antidote.
When someone like Jose can like start the conversation with a really powerful performance that is also entertaining and fun and it's great music, then there's an opportunity to follow up with some conversation and some action.
I was taught to love everybody. And like, you know, despite the color of their skin, I don't see myself any different than the next person. Cause like, I don't know, racism gets me. And I just want to remind people that like, if I were to die today and a white person needed my kidney or my liver and we're a matching blood type, it doesn't matter what kind of skin color I had, I saved your life. And vice versa, you know, like people are more than their skin. We're all one race, we're a human race.
I think there's a few different pieces about safety, and one of them is like, as a performer, drag has allowed me to explore a lot of different parts of myself and really deeply, and I want everybody to have that experience.
How did Juneau receive you?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. I honestly don't know. If someone says, hey, you're Jose, and I'm like, yeah. And they're like, you're amazing, and I'm like, okay. Like, thank you. I'm glad you like it. Like, I don't know, I'm just like flattered. Like, Jose is like the other side of me. It's my other, it's the part of me, you know, like, kind of things that I feel deeply about, and I wouldn't talk about something that I don't feel deeply about. So.
I don't know that I'm trying to be a woman. I'm trying to feel pretty, and I want, when I do drag, I do want to feel feminine beauty and kind of let out feminine energy, but I'm not trying to be a woman per se, but I'm definitely not a man.
I just have to live.
Our shows are really a safe space, and I mean, Alaska is as liberal as Juneau is, and there's so many pockets of like liberal places, and Alaska is still very conservative.
I think it's such a powerful art form to test boundaries and push boundaries. And I think the other piece of the safety thing is like audiences who come to the show feel really safe. Like that's a hugely important facet for me too. I've certainly worked in a lot of bars and nightclubs where that was not the case, but it's really important for me to like use the fact that I have a microphone and that I have a captive audience to talk about respect and safety. And we can get really serious at times, but do it in this context that it tries to make that information accessible and that message embraceable by a pretty diverse audience. I think that's about like actively creating the culture that you want to live in. We're trying to plant some seeds.
I know that it has really weird connotations, but I feel like you just told me that there's like a drag church and you're the preacher. Like that's how that just came across. Just planting seeds.
I'ma say it with my chest now. I got you figured out. It's something that you got, babe. It has me going wild. It's the way you say my name, the way you touch my face. It's like our bodies move so easily. Like a movie, like a dream, a dose of dopamine, more than ecstasy.